Husker fans. You're watching Tommie Frazier's X's and O's, presented by Towers Productions. I'm Jimmy Shield, and Tommie, thank the Lord, we have a game played, and we can forget all the happy horse stuff about the defense.
Well, I think I'm happy that we got a game up on our belt now. Now we know what we have to work on. But yesterday it wasn't too exciting for me and a lot of fans. So.
Well, it was too exciting. That was the problem.
No, it wasn't exciting at all. I know people that I talked to didn't think it was very exciting at all. Most of the comments I heard was, "Here we go again."
Well, yeah, I'm not saying a good excitement, but it kept your attention all through that fourth quarter. And I just said, kind of negative about the defense as a whole.
Right.
But I thought there were some really. Nebraska won, by the way, 35 or 34-31, whatever is a field goal. That's all I remember.
37-34.
But there were some bright spots on defense, even if we were frustrated with the overall picture.
Yeah, there were some bright spots. Some of the guys stepped up and played well. They had their moments. I was impressed. I was impressed with Gregory.
44.
For number 44 at times. When you let him get off the ball, let him go, he can play. So I was impressed by him. I thought the linebackers played well in spurts. The one troubling spot I saw was our veteran defensive backs that we had at the start of the year last year didn't play well.
In particular, who?
Well, you can cross the board. I know everyone said we talk about Baptiste and Ciante, but overall, when you're giving up 600 yards in a passing game, you're not playing well in the secondary, and everything falls on the secondary because they have a couple of guys. But we didn't get much pressure on it. We didn't get much pressure on Wyoming line. It's a whole bunch of stuff, and that's why they had 660 yards of total offense against us.
Now we know Wyoming was a 4-8 team last year. But that kid's a player at quarterback, and he has some receivers. But other than that, tell me, I think we did get pressure. They just didn't finish it. He got flushed, and as long as you're getting pressure, you're going to get home sooner or later. But tell me about Wyoming's offensive line. Were they any good that we should have been more pressure?
Well, the thing about because you're getting pressure, you also got to understand the type of quarterback that you're playing against. And if you go back 2 years ago when Nebraska played Wyoming, the guy was a freshman at that time, Nebraska got pressure on, quote-unquote pressure, but he was able to run. He's mobile. So, of course, you get pressure doesn't mean if you got it's not always the best thing because if you have a mobile quarterback who can run, you're not getting pressure. You're putting gaps and seams and holes in your defense. And with Wyoming's offensive line, they're a good offensive line, but they're not a great offensive line. The problem what happened was Dave Christensen knows how to scheme against Bo Pelin's defense. And
where was he?
And he was offensive coordinator at Missouri when Missouri beat Nebraska 7 by quite a few points a couple times.
2007.
So it's one of those deals to where it was a great matchup for Dave Christensen because he knows what Bo, he knows his checks and knows audibles, and he was able to put points on the board and put yards on the board.
But we know that. We can see that. Why won't Bo adjust? Now, part of the thing is you've been around the college game forever. Right. Is it just coaches are just too stubborn sometimes when they get to a certain level?
I think it is. I think when you truly believe in your philosophy, you become that hey, my philosophy worked because it's worked before. But times have changed, players change. And when you're talking about that we have a young athletic defense and you the first game out of the year, you're giving us 660 yards or over 600 yards. I don't know if it was 660 or 6 whatever, it was still over 600 yards. You got to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, what can we do to get these guys flying around and making plays? And I've always said before, I'm not a big fan of a two-gap read by defensive line. I hate it because it doesn't make them attack. And with this defense, if you look at all the top defenses on the first week, those defensive linemen attacked. It wasn't like they had two gaps to read. They took a gap and went. And that's what we need to get to is this young defensive unit that we're supposed to have.
Yeah, and in the post-game press conference, that was kind of
he had a post-game conference?
Well, Coach Christensen did.
Oh, okay.
Because it felt like they won.
Right.
Coach Christensen said, the scheme question came to him, and he said it was just as much about execution.
Right.
That Brett Smith, he was throwing balls on a line.
Right.
The receivers were making plays, but he was putting them into positions where
they didn't have to.
It would work.
It would work
to their strengths.
To their strength, and that's the one downfall that we didn't do defense. We didn't put our defensive players in position to make sure the scheme worked or they have success early and often. And that's what was most troubling to me. To where when you kept saying that we're young, but we're athletic, we're young, but we're athletic. I didn't see that all the time last night. I didn't see those guys flowing and be using that like all night. They looked like they were thinking too much because they want to make sure that they were in the right place at the right time. And when you thought of thinking, you're not playing hard, you're not playing physical.
You can't go at 100%.
No, and
you're not at 80 because you're thinking, okay, what?
Right.
There seemed to be a lot of miscommunication, and I'm on the couch, not knowing what was going on, but a little more.
Mm-hmm.
With Nebraska's miscommunication, what was going on?
Well, I think it's just, once again, you got young guys out there. You got guys who are playing for the first time or starting for the first time. When a game, you can communicate all you want in practice, or you can slow it down in practice. But once you get inside those lines and the game starts, you can't slow it down, and the game moves 10 times faster than it does in practice. And so now you have to make checks and calls quicker. And when you're not used to it and you're young, you think about, am I lined up right, or did I make the right call? You're going to miscommunicate, and that's what happened last night.
And that's another reason why maybe you don't have such a complex defense. Because they had the same thing last year with a lot of fifth-year seniors, and same things happened with breakdowns in communication. Right. And part of that goes back to you have if you have 7, 8 guys with their backs to the quarterback and he takes off, or the middle is open. I mean, how many coaches since Texas in 2010? How many people have done that to Bo? And what adjustments did he have? Did he make any adjustments in the first half?
I don't know if he made an adjustment, because I think the second half that Wyoming did more in the second half. I just think that right now with a young defense, you got to make it simple for them. And that don't mean throw out your whole playbook. I'm not saying that. But you got to make it simple so when they get on that field, they're not thinking. They don't have to make all the calls. They let them line up and go from there. I see too many times where they're flipping guys, calling motion, and moving guys, shifting guys. What happens to old days to where when a guy goes in motion, you just bump. You don't move everyone and change everyone. And to me, if they to make it simple, start doing stuff like that until they start getting that down. Because if you can't execute your base defense versus certain formations, then something's wrong. And I think last night they got beat on their base defense a lot because guys was confused because they probably saw something or showed them something that they didn't see in practice.
You're watching Tommie Frazier's X's and O's, presented by Towers Productions. And a silver lining, maybe, of last night.
They won. That's the silver lining. They won.
Well, they went against such an experienced, savvy quarterback.
Right.
And I don't know anyone's going to play that fast. And, with 6 minutes left in the game, Wyoming only had 20 points. So while they're giving up yards, and I hate to say that because giving up yards drives me nuts, the bend don't break thing. Because when you're bending, you're giving up field position. Instead of starting at 35, you're starting at the 15. So unless you're going against Colt McCoy.
And that's football. That's this thing that every coach always say, let's win the field position battle. And the more they're driving the ball, your defense is being wore down. So you don't want to have that mentality. We're gonna bend, but then we get close to the end zone, then we're gonna buckle down. No, because the more plays you drive that defense, the tighter you're gonna get. Mm-hmm. And so we gotta find a way to get more than 3 and outs. And I understand with the offense with the spread offenses, it's a little tougher when you got an experienced quarterback who can move around and deliver the ball all the time. But there comes a point in time to where you gotta just knuckle up, button down, and get off the field as a defense. And I don't think Nebraska had a 3 and out, maybe 1 or 2 all night.
In Bo's defense, let's try to see it from his angle, and maybe coach speak. But I heard over the past few years, Bo and the departed defensive coordinator, his brother Carl, say bend don't break, where they're saying, hey, you got to go 12 plays and execute instead of maybe hitting a big play. Do they worry too much about the vertical game now that people have adjusted to it a little bit?
No, I just think that I'm not going to say they worry about the vertical game, because with the type of offense that they're facing right now, the vertical game is always there. I just think that sometimes it's a little bit too complicated, and I keep going back to the how complicated it is, especially this year, more so this year than last year. And you thought maybe last year it could have been more because they had 50 seniors playing. But this year, when you have sophomores and redshirt freshmen, you got to line them up, get them lined up, and just let them go. And if you get beat that way, at least they're giving it all. They're not out there thinking they're just playing and go. you can't. I'm gonna continue saying this. You gotta dummy it down for young guys. I understand you have a system, and I don't have all the answers. And I played the game, and I also coached a little bit. When guys aren't picking up your scheme, then you have to dummy it down to where they can understand and pick it up and play it and run full free of thinking.
And real quick, what percentage of the playbook as a true freshman did you run?
Oh, maybe 15, 20%. You know,
Granted, you could slice it, but still, that just shows.
It just shows you that even as a freshman, they give you certain plays that you do well. And there are times where I told Coach Osborne, hey, these are the plays that I feel comfortable with this week. And those are the ones that he tried to focus on. And then as I got older, more and more the playbook started coming in. But as a freshman and guys who are starting your scheme for the first time, you are planning, you got to keep them to where they understand exactly what's going on. And a lot of times last night, they were confused.
You mentioned 3 and outs, and almost like pancakes has disappeared from the Nebraska verbiage.
Right.
And I don't want to be going back to, when we were so great or whatever. It's just success. You look at programs around the country.
Right.
3 and outs, pancakes, that's a good stat. And Bo loves to bring out his numbers. I just like pancakes and 3 and outs.
They probably call it something else. They probably call it pancake something else. They probably still have it in there, just something different. Just something different. But at the end of the day, the main thing is to win a football game. There are some teams this week who won and look impressive. There's some teams who won and they look impressive. There's some teams who lost and it was a good loss. Well, I'm going to say, hey, we looked impressive on loss, and there's some teams who say we look bad in loss. So you're going to have it all over the place. But at the bottom line, we know what we have. I've been saying it all off season. I said it last year. If the defense doesn't improve on stopping the run and getting pressure on the quarterback, it's going to be the same stuff. And that's exactly what we saw yesterday.
Maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit.
You always drink the Kool-Aid. You're drinking the Kool-Aid, though.
Kool-Aid was invented in Nebraska.
I know it was. In Hastings.
Oh, wow. I know even more. Coach Osborne's town. I like the pressure not only from Randy Gregory, obviously. Remember, that was the first game he played in since 2011.
Right.
He didn't have spring ball.
Right.
So hopefully that's going to keep going. But Malik Collins busted through. True freshman. Then you had Vincent Valentine.
Yeah,
talk about Vincent Valentine.
But you talk about guys busting through. It was one play behind.
Chase Rome never busted through.
Yeah, but you say bust through 1 out of every 6 plays. You know, if you told me, hey, every other play he was in the backfield doing something, I can say, okay. But even a blind squirrel get a nut every now and then if he keeps trying.
2 shows in.
I'm just saying. But I think Vincent Valentine, he's going to be a real good player if they just let him attack. You got good young defensive linemen to where if you just let them line up and attack and go without thinking right now, and learn to play the game on the go, it's gonna be they're gonna turn out to be a fine defensive line. But as for right now, what we're doing, I think it's hindering them a little bit.
Before we talk a little about the veteran offense and their output, last thing, true freshman Nate Gary blew up a little trick play, which resulted in an interception by Ciante Evans. I like that speed at linebacker by Nate Gary, but at times, true freshman first game, he was a little overmatched trying to match up.
And that's what's going to happen. But guess what?
He made some plays.
They're getting talent on the field, and then they're letting the guy they put speed on the field, and we all know speed 90% of the time is going to win over anything else. But you can have all the speed you want, but you still got to get lined up and still execute. But I love seeing them starting to play the young guys because even though we're in the season right now, you can see the type of player those young guys are going to be down the road if they stay healthy. And Nebraska, on defense side, they hadn't had a lot of guys that usually stay healthy through the full season. But it was disappointing to see Nebraska defense play the way they did, and for the third straight game, give up over 1,800 yards total in 3 games on defense. That's not what Nebraska fans want. That's not the reason why Bo Pelini was brought here. So we got to get that side of the ball corrected, rectified soon. We can't be later because the schedule's only going to get tougher. And you got Southern Miss this week. They have a quarterback who can throw the ball. But when you start talking about we got to play Michigan State, whose defense looked very good.
And a conference game.
And a conference game. You got Northwestern, who looked very good. And then Michigan offense looked good to me.
Gardner's tough.
And so those are 3 games you have to play this year. And if our defense is playing that way, the way they played last night, it's going to be a long season for us.
Yeah, you might not mention one of the scariest in UCLA, but that's a non-conference game.
That's still a huge game. It's still a huge game. You want to win that, but
you mentioned young guys. Probably the young guy that probably sparkled on offense, shone like a diamond. Terrell Newby out of California. What do you like out of him?
Loved him. I love the way he played. I love the way he run the ball. The Marlon question is there enough carries back to get 3 guys the ball? Mm-hmm. And it's hard to have a 3-headed monster at running back and keep them all happy. So you got to decide each one of those positions. We already knew Amir's going to be the focal point, and he deserved it. He earned it. Now you look at Amani and Newby. How do you split the rest of the carries up between them two? Newby, I think he's a big play guy. He makes things happen, but when it comes to short yardage stuff, you got to get the ball across. I mean, he's definitely the expert hit, the hard run, to get them tough yards. But
do you like Amani as an every down back?
No, I don't think he truly has the speed to be the break. Now, if you're talking
yesterday was Wyoming.
Yeah, but if you're talking about a guy that we want a big back and we want to pound down the field, then yes. But if you're talking about we want to have a big play offense, we want a back who can make the big play at any time, I don't think he's capable of doing that. I think Amir and Newby are guys who can make the big play. You don't know if something can happen and a big play happen. Where mine, I think as he goes in the game, the more carries he gets, he wears teams down with how physical he runs, and then that's when he pops a big play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, often in the season someone gets dinged up, so that situation will probably take care of itself.
It's going to take care of itself. It's a good problem to have, especially early in the season. So I'm happy to see that we have 3 running backs that we can depend on and put them out there and they play well. And what was more encouraging? Amir didn't fumble the ball.
Yes, he didn't. Amani had one, which would have been a horrible fumble when he was kind of almost, I think we were on the 9 or 10, and he kind of was getting stood up and somebody came.
Right.
And the man on the spot, let's not forget Jamal Turner, recovered that, and then he knocked the onside out. So Jamal had some big catches, but he also was Johnny on the spot a little bit, as they say.
Right.
You're watching Tommie Frazier's X's and O's, presented by Tower Productions. And how about the Heisman candidate, Taylor Martinez?
For the first game, I think he was dinged up a little bit. I think he hurt his shoulder a little bit. But I think he went out and played a decent game.
Solid.
I think he was solid. He didn't do anything too major outside of the interception that he threw, which was a bad throw. That happens. Mm-hmm. But I think he went out there and managed the offense. They still put up 37 points. And you would think in this day and age, 37 points should be enough for Nebraska to win non-conference early games like that. It wasn't. So there's still some things that they need to work on offensively. I thought that at times he played uninterested, especially when he got up by, I think it was 16 points. You see that he kind of lost focus a little bit. But I don't have a problem with the play. I thought that he played a solid game to where that if they needed him to do more, he could have done more.
Mm-hmm. And his running kept him, 11 on 11. He had 16 carries for 80 yards.
Right.
And then he 17 to 22, but really wasn't going downfield. The thing I probably liked the most was the possession after the interception when things were getting pretty tight. They had a 3rd and 13, and he made a nice pass. Kenny Bell ran a good route, and, so he competed when they were getting a little tough, but then, 3 downs later, the possession stopped. But he competed early, and made it go.
And who's not to say it could have been because of the talent that he felt that the talent level that they were playing against, they shouldn't be close. And we got to take.
Well, he was a little dinged up, as you mentioned.
And he was dinged up. But
left shoulder, we'll see what it is.
We'll see what it is. Of course, you listen to Bo play, he's fine. He's not nothing. He just bros bumped it. But Bo never tells about if someone's really hurt or not. He's going to be fine. But I just think that he played a solid game. And for the first game, I'm not too disappointed about how he played.
Mm-hmm. Were you a little surprised by how much sprint option they ran with Taylor?
I was. I think it's for me. I think it's way too early to get him hit. If your goal is to make it to the Big Ten championship and win that game, and then eventually, hopefully, a BCS game, or if you win out the opportunity for the national championship, you early in the season you can't be taking those type of shots. You can't be running plays that's going to jeopardize that. You have way too much talent in the backfield and wide receivers. Let those guys do the bulk of the hits when they and pick and choose when Taylor takes hits. And I think run that much option when this early in the season. Cool.
Is read option? It seems like it's not as you can kind of shield your blows a little more, or am I misreading it?
Well, shield your blows or not. When you run the football, you got to run with authority, and you can't protect yourself. When you start protecting yourself, that's when you really get hurt.
Yeah.
When you go into contact full speed, you have a better chance of not getting hurt than you do getting hurt. Yeah. But when you pull up or you slide, that's when you get hurt. And if their goals are to play the Big Ten championship, then they gotta try to protect him more. He doesn't need to run the ball as much as he should, as he did yesterday. 16 carries. To me, in the first game, 16 carries is too much for him. Especially when he had Amir with 19 carries for 108 yards, and Amani had 13 for 100 yards. He had Terrell Newman had 10. Split those eight of those carries that he had between those other guys.
But almost any game you're trying to win, you have to use Taylor's leg. I just see it as if he gets hit, he gets hit. I mean, it's football, but Taylor is a good passing quarterback for a running quarterback, and if you're not running him, then
but pick and choose when you do it.
Okay, so maybe around 10 instead of around 17.
That's what I just said. Instead of having to run 16 carry, maybe 9, 10. 9, 10, give those carries to the guys who can take because when Amani runs, he's going to be a bruiser, he's going to lower short, and he's going to wear the defense down. They're going to get tired, and that's where Taylor's big run's going to come. Pow, and now he takes off. Early in the season, he doesn't need to take that many shots.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
I can see that.
Especially when you don't have a backup quarterback that you can put in the game right now and say, "Oh, this guy gonna help us win." Because I don't think we have a guy who can go out there if Taylor's down for 2 or 3 weeks, we win. They might go in there and finish and mop up a game, but if Taylor's out for a long period of time, I don't think we have a guy we might have one, but he hasn't proven anything because we don't know what he can and cannot do.
It's too much to risk at this point.
It's too much to risk early in the season.
And we talked about Kenny Bell making some nice catches along with Jamal, but Quincy Enunwa only had 3, but there were some big catches. And while Turner threw the ball well, some of those passes that Quincy came down with were a little high, and his big mitts over the middle.
Well, but that's the thing. That's the thing about Quincy, to where he's a possession receiver, and he's big enough and tall enough to where if you throw it up, he can go get it. And that's his role in this offense. We want you to get we need 7 yards. We're gonna let you go to the middle. We're gonna throw a slam. We're gonna throw it high. And we want you to go get it. That's his position. That's what he needs to do, and he's good at that. You have Kenny Bell, who's your flashy guy. Let's get down the field, run, throw the ball quick, make people move. You have Jamal, who's in the slot that can do that thing. So you don't need Quincy to be that guy to try to be the big play guy. Just get him running routes and throw it up and let it go. Because what is he, 6'2", 6'3"?
Probably over 6'2".
He's going to be tall.
He's as big as Kyler.
Yeah, he's going to be taller than the most DBs he faced. So why won't you use him at that? And he has big hands. So if he gets in this area, he's going to catch it.
Yeah, he has a lot of options in the receiving game. Well, next week, 5 bells down at Memorial Stadium. One thing offensively and one thing defensively offensively and defensively, you're looking for?
Offensively, I want to see them focus more on getting the running game solidified earlier. But don't do it late. Go and pound it. If you want to take some of the pressure off Taylor, of him, get those running backs going, get the offensive line going. Eventually they got to it, but if they would have done that earlier, I think they could have taken control of the game a lot quicker than what they did.
And it takes some pressure off the defense. Against better teams, if they can do that,
then the defense
keeps the defense off the field.
Exactly, and the defense stays fresher. Defense, I want to see them at least get 5 or 6 3-and-outs. I want to see them
3-and-out.
Playing with more confidence. When I say playing with more confidence, running to the football, getting there. Everybody knowing exactly what they're doing. They're running stuff to where the guys can be successful. And last, I just want to see a win. A win is a win. No one's gonna talk about a bad win or a good win when you at the end of the year when you see the records. That's at the end of the day. That's what people are gonna look at. How many games did you win? How many games did you lose? Yeah. And so the ultimate goal is to win. But I want to see defense flowing around to where they're not making as mental mistakes as they did the first week.
Well, we'll talk about all of it next week and see if they hit their goals. But Most importantly, did they get that win against Southern Miss, as that's the last tune-up before the biggest non-con game of the year, UCLA, in 2 weeks. Thanks, Tommie.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out today.
We'll be back next week on Tommie Frazier's X's and O's, presented by Towers Productions.